Thanks for being here. So today we want to talk about the service component of a faculty member's duties and responsibilities.
Okay.
You guys are all aware of the research, teaching, and service components of one's dossier and the needs that come with each of those. And so during different elements of our early career faculty forum, we focused in on teaching, we've talked about research. This one we talk a little bit about service and try to, best we can, to make recommendations or to point out the kind of service activities that can count at different stages of your career as a faculty member, and the kind of things that you might focus on as an early career faculty member, mid-career faculty member, and then folks like Larry and I, what kind of service we should be doing to be a good citizen of the campus, of the UM system, because frankly, what makes this place run is people. They're just walls, and so the many attributes of service and how service helps students succeed, and then balancing that basic need with your own personal needs to take care of yourself. You have to be selfish as a junior faculty member. The most junior. What's that? Yeah. Well, junior faculty in particular tend to be overachievers who can't say no. And when it comes down to if you're asked to do something that is maybe beyond what you should be focused in on as a junior faculty member, then you need to have the courage to say no, or you could use this document, this PowerPoint, and say, but Larry and Wayne said I shouldn't be on the parking committee. Why am I on the parking committee?
Here's a note from Larry.
It's always good to have a conversation with the folks who are in charge of your destiny, your chairs, perhaps your dean even, to have a clear understanding of expectations. Because if there's one thing academia isn't so good at, it's laying out standards of performance. We may have CET, teaching evaluations, but when it comes down to putting numbers on things and expectations, do the best you can to know what's expected of you, particularly as a junior faculty member. So we're going to try to, between Larry and I, we have a few years of experience in all of this, and try to do our best to make some recommendations. So we're glad you're here today to pipe in and speak as well. CAFE is all about balance between these missions. It's unique amongst the 4 system campuses. Our 3 counterparts at Mizzou, UMSL, and UMKC are teaching centers. We're teaching, research, and service centers. And so this is part of what we're trying to do to maintain that balance. There are a lot of components of service that one could draw upon with respect to, I'm sorry, I'm standing away. I will stand back this way a little bit. I'm sorry. I like to be close to the audience.
We do have a little
There's a clicker.
Our discussion today, we're kind of going to go through both internal and external service attributes. And then on all these slides, we've got things highlighted in green and red. The green ones being those areas that we feel a junior faculty member could be paying attention to. And it could be helpful with respect to preparing your dossier. These slides we're going to have posted on in Canvas and elsewhere, so they'll be available to you. So Larry and I are going to take turns here talking about what kind of service components there are at the departmental, college, university, and UM system levels, and then talk about the kind of service that you can do with respect to external means, whether that's your professional society or working, doing things for funding agencies or journals and reviewing papers and such, and community service as well. If you look inside the collected rules and regulations, and most faculty I know of, most faculty don't bother to read them unless there's a problem. But when it comes down to promotion and tenure and the guidelines that are established for how you're going to be measured, there's a paragraph in there that talks about the role of service. And I won't read this to you here, but it just lays out what service expectations are in a very general sense. Service may occur within a discipline, national, regional, state organizations, or in the community at large. It may also occur in an administrative unit, blah, blah, blah. And so we're going to try to give examples for all of these different categories and where they fit in. And Larry, I think this is where we talked about, these are in random order. Okay. Did you want to take it on here, or I'll do this one yet?
I'll do this one, I'll go with the next one.
I have a quick question. Are these in the freshman faculty manual or handbook?
I don't think we have them in, I don't think we have them posted on there, but they're gonna get all the slides. Everybody who's in the Early Career Faculty Forum list, get these slides.
I'll pass on a great compliment. In my opinion, it's a great compliment. I'm on the Chancellor Search Committee, and one of the finalists was speaking with us and said that he learned more from the Early Faculty Handbook, I think it's called, on the CAFE webpage than anything else that he'd been provided or he'd been able to find.
Really?
Cool. Thank you.
Tell Abby that.
Abby Big, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It makes us feel good. So.
And also, if you would, as we put recommended things, if you see something that looks screwy to you, tell us.
You okay? I'll see
I just want a
you.
better angle.
Okay.
Number one, external service to professional organization counts most towards promotion and tenure. It's very likely that, it's desirable that someone from your profession, from outside this university, can write a letter that goes in your dossier. And they tell Shun. Shun organized a symposium at the American Physical Society in Toronto in fall of 2018, organized a slate of speakers that was outstanding, blah, 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 blah. That kind of letter from an external person in your profession. What society do you serve? That's important. We have professional travel grants available to you to go travel to these professional society meetings for you to build a network. And so when it comes down to the kind of things that you can do there, it's really service work. Maybe it's an important committee of your professional society. Maybe it's organize a symposium, a workshop, something of that nature. Try to do that during your pre-tenure years. And that'll really speak volumes, because then your chair can write a letter to a person that would be aware of your contributions, and then they can vouch for that. That helps build your national reputation. That's one component of it. That's why we put this one kind of on top with respect to, imagine the campus P&T committee. There's 19, 16, 19 people sitting around the table looking at your dossier. 18 out of those 19 are outside your discipline. They won't know anything. That's incorrect. They won't know nearly as much as you about your profession. And for someone in your profession to say that Shun's doing a great job, Audrey's doing a great job, Amelia's doing, it was like, wow, that wasn't easy to do. Everybody recognizes that sort of thing.
I have a question.
Yep.
So, like I'm not in the tenure track, so I haven't on the promotion. In terms of the dossier and stuff, is it like it's a different committee that looks at it, right?
For what? For
For promotion, but not tenure.
same committees,
Same. Okay.
same committee.
Okay.
Yep, that's exactly right. So
If there are ever that you can think of like differences, like the tenure may have, obviously research aside, you know, if there's differences in terms of service or something, if you think about that even now, that would help you kind of know, like if you're non-tenure track, this might be more.
Yeah, it's going to vary from department to department how they describe the expectations for their NTT faculty members. So I think we would be a little bit hesitant to make a grand statement, because in your departments may be dramatically different than it is in electrical and computer engineering.
Oh, I didn't know if there was like a general, like mine is like 80 teaching, 20 service. I didn't know if that was standard across the university, or it could be like somebody could have like 95-5 really, or something.
Well, the 80-20 is a likely one. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I know
So
that's
it's
what I
still
have,
like
but
a
that's-
3-year review and all of that process for an tenure track?
we're going
well,
to talk more details on each
Sorry,
of these, so
I
I won't
didn't-
try
yeah.
to
No, it's
say
okay.
too much more. But
Not
talk, what we just mentioned about workload distribution, and are you 40-40-20, 75-25-15?
40,
That
40,
sort of
20.
thing, try to make sure what you're defining. Shouldn't you know what I mean by workload?
Yep.
Distribution, okay.
115%, yeah.
It should be commensurate with what you're really doing. If you're pre-tenure, it's okay to be selfish with your time. Learn to say no. If you have a great chair, they will say no for you. If you're asked to do something and you're thinking, is that a good investment of my time? Ask them. They're the ones that can say no for you. We all understand how difficult it can be to say no. Being a good citizen of your department is always wise. There's some, as we'll talk about, there are service contributions that you can make pre-tenure. They're going to help you get to know your colleagues, going to help you get to know the students better. Service expectations will evolve with time, just as duties and responsibilities for faculty tend to shift.
Yeah, hang on that last one for just a moment. Service expectations change after tenure. I want to use the example of a person from my department. His name is John McManus. He's become one of the superstar researchers at the campus. He's at the Naval Academy this year on leave, and he's a fabulous researcher and publisher. And when I met with him in his pre-tenure years, I said, let's minimize your service. But once you get tenured and promoted, we've just invested in you substantially. You're going to owe more service to the department, to the college, to the campus, and he got it. And then when he became full professor, I said, there's going to be more obligations on you. So what John has done is go from very little service as a pre-tenured professor to, he has chaired the campus tenure promotion committee. He's been on that campus committee many years. He not only serves on the research board, he chaired the humanities portion of the research board. So my philosophy as a chair always was, as you make it up the ranks, and if you're NTT, the same thing would apply in my judgment. You owe more service as you get promoted.
But is still a percentage, or is more time committed and you basically get to choose what you want to do or invest?
I don't think percentage.
It needs to be significant service.
So it has always to be in agreement with the department and the chair?
It's best
All
to
right.
work with your chair,
No,
yeah.
just checking. It's
So
okay.
some examples of departmental services that may come along your way, and we're recommending the green, but always think about this in terms of having a conversation with your department chair about this. Search committees is a valuable one to be on, because you get to learn a lot about your colleagues. It's important service to your department, and you're playing a role in shaping what your department's going to be like. We think that's a good one to participate in. And they don't come along that often unless you're in a really, really large department like your department, which has probably multiple searches each year, or mechanical and aerospace, which is an even larger department. Advising, try to keep that minimal.
Could I comment on the
Yeah,
committees,
please.
just as a member
Please.
of another department? Search committees within the department level, let's say for an assistant professor, any rank, I think that would be a good experience. But anything above that, I would strongly advise you to not participate because of the political implications.
Good.
And
Yep.
just, I think that I've worked with colleagues who were untenured on high-level search committees both this year and the previous year. They were unhappy and we were unhappy that they were asked to serve because of them. We just thought it wasn't right to ask them in the first place.
True,
Good
I
point.
get it.
Which is one of those places where you might want to strongly say no. Right?
Politely.
Thank you.
Politely.
What is the normal procedure to be on a committee?
On the search committee?
Yeah.
It's going to vary, if it's a faculty search, it's going to vary from department to department. We're going to have some new rules come into play on search committees for chairs. That's still being worked out at
Yeah.
collective
At the
rules
Senate
level.
level, right?
There's been some changes from what the system wanted to do originally. I think departments are going to be happier with what is resulting from discussions between the officers of the faculty senate and the president's office. It's good to do some advising, to get to know your students, but try your best to keep a cap on it. You don't want
There's
to
the
be,
problem.
you don't want to be advising 73 students.
Well, we have
Go
a
ahead.
distinct problem. We don't have as many majors, and the minors is a little tricky, and so we actually never get to have enough students, I guess, to count as advising, like you have in the science and technology fields.
So it's probably not an expectation in your appointment that you'll do
Well,
significant
others
advising.
said until at least they sign that they're doing the major, the multidisciplinary, or even a minor, it actually doesn't count.
Mhm.
So my question is, so what about all the hours I've already spent with the students going over if they should benefit from getting a minor or a major? So I guess no paperwork that never counts. right?
That could be a part of, you get a chance to write a
What I
self-assessment
want.
and keep a log of how many students you've been talking to.
I am
You can put that into your self-assessment at tenure promotion time.
Thanks, Larry.
You bet. Student groups. These are time consumers. And it looks really tempting, particularly with the design team, but this one is really a drain on your time. It's really better for a tenured professor to work with student groups? What do you do in your department if folks wanted to work with a student group who was pre-tenure?
Oh, never. We have 6 student groups in our department. And no.
Is this like the Spanish club thing?
We have the blacksmithing
design?
club, the
Oh,
glassblowing
okay.
club, we have
Got
American
it.
Ceramic Society, we have Materials Advantage, we have Alpha Sigma Mu, we have Keramos. 2 honor societies, and the other 4 are very active with K
Got
through
it.
12 out. They're very active student groups.
But those
Because of that,
are,
they need an active advisor.
but aren't those mostly student run and lab?
Correct, but as an advisor, you're expected to attend all our meetings.
Okay, I got,
Every
that's a
student-
lot of meetings.
Every student organization on campus has to have a faculty advisor, any officially recognized one.
All right,
And
didn't
so-
know that, thanks.
And then if the team or the group is not functioning well, and then you've got a real-time drain. But the next one is valuable. Senior
Okay.
design teams, or however your department considers the culminating experience in the major, those are good to work with because you're helping students be successful. Same thing with the experiential learning. Is either of you got any OURE students?
I actually had a question today. I have a student who is on, an upper level class, and she needs one more class to finish her Spanish. I haven't had a chance to speak in my chair yet. She either wants to do an independent study or this program. I've never done it, and I was trying, Irina wasn't around, Audrey was busy. Would this be a good fit? Because,
Well, it would because they're working with your research.
yes.
This undergraduate student would be,
And she
you
said she
carve
would
out
present a
something.
poster or something.
Yeah. That's a good use because you're contributing to their success.
Yes.
They're actually helping you.
And the deadline's May the 1st, right?
Do your best to stay away from these.
Ooh, yeah. No.
These can be big time drains. They're valuable to the campus, but this is what the full professors and the associate professors should be doing, not pre-tenure or assistant teaching.
I'd be really bad at this, I'd be like, there's a bunch of engineering stuff over there. Moving on.
See, I would feel
Your
obliged
department has
for
a
that.
seminar series. Physics has a seminar series. I don't think you guys have a seminar series. That's a good one to work on because you get a chance to interact with some really outstanding scholars that come to the campus. So I think participating in that would be useful. You're shaking your head yes.
I'm saying absolutely.
Yeah.
My son is a faculty member. That was the first thing I told him to do. Said if they tell you to do service, tell them you want the seminar series.
Yep.
So he's been getting fed good food every Monday, and he's met lots of wonderful people, and he's
Good.
gotten reciprocal speaking invitations as a result of that.
And then
It's
importantly, if
wonderful.
you can use that as a lever for you to go to their university.
Exactly.
I often ask my new faculty, I said, who's the best in your field? Who's the best? Let's invite them here, let's give a seminar, and then let's see if we can get you invited to go there and give a talk.
Does
And
this
then-
mean you work with an already established seminar, or you have to create a new thing?
Typically, there's a committee, a departmental committee. It's nice to play a role in that. You could suggest for someone in your field, in physics, that would be good. Physics has a good seminar.
Yeah.
Field trips, no.
Students go on field trips?
Yeah.
They do, study abroad.
I don't think it's a field trip.
Spring break in Cancun, Girls Gone
Oh,
Wild.
I would go there.
Now,
Oh, we learned so much Spanish, yeah.
clearly, this is one that applies to the physical sciences and engineering.
Being
So because I've never advised a faculty member on this one, what would you say about the advisor?
So in the teaching section of your promotion and tenure dossier, in my discipline in particular, we have so many hands-on labs. There'll be a mechanical properties lab, electrical properties lab, thermal properties lab, optical properties lab. To be able to articulate in your dossier that you helped maintain or even created a new lab facility where students can learn new techniques. People sitting around the table will understand, oh, that wasn't easy. And that helps you with your student interactions, research mission, those kind of things.
Did that also apply to your department?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. In our department, especially if you're in charge of a lab, you have a role in assigning the graduate teaching assistants, and that can be helpful.
These are all red.
college, okay, explain.
We're
College of
disagreeing.
Art, Science, and Business, or the
Oh,
College of
okay.
Engineering and Computing.
I'll disagree.
Okay,
Committee,
go ahead.
and it's a good time to do this because the Faculty Senate is going to be soliciting nominations for committees. The
Yes.
best committee ever is mine. It's the Public Occasions Committee. We never meet. We do everything by email. And it's a Faculty Senate standing committee, so you get big
Are you
time
gonna,
credit for it.
do you guys have vacancies?
We
Because I know
ask
for a
every
fact
year.
Audrey will be looking into the committees to
We
tell
ask-
me what to do.
I'm pretty sure that we have members that are, whose terms are expiring, so it's almost 0 time spent, yet Faculty Senate standing committee
Okay.
experience. The freshman engineering or first year experience, I was a freshman advisor. It was time consuming, not more than, I don't think it was disproportionate, but it was just such a joy to interact with the students before anybody else got to them. That
Ah,
it was very gratifying for
It's
me.
going through a transition phase at the moment, so it's going to be a little bit more challenging, I think, for people that,
Yes.
in current environment.
More inclusive.
Well, yes,
Of the whole
exactly. They're trying to
picture.
wrap each other together in the one big first year experience kind of program.
okay.
So,
It
yeah.
sounds pretty sexy in terms of committees.
What I tend to lean towards is for
Yes.
the advising component of what you're learning as a new faculty member, if you do it in the department with your majors, that's teaching you about the other classes and when they're offered, and ceramics 4220, okay, that's thermal properties, Hillman's teaches that one, and it helps you learn your own curriculum. Pro advising, or not pro, freshman engineering advising, you learn about the calc sequence, the physics sequence, all the history classes, you gain a familiarity with the entire curriculum.
It's discipline dependent, but in our field, the freshman advising takes way less time than
Okay.
the major advising.
So that would suggest a good conversation with the chair.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Open house days are full days. And there's several during the semester, and you just lose the day.
But this is for senior faculty.
That's why it's not
right?
recommended, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why all this is red.
Yeah, this is not.
Open
The
house.
summer camps are wonderful. I mean, they're wonderful recruiting tools for our institution, but a lot of time. I mean, Wayne has worked with the Jackley Institute for years and years and years, but he's senior faculty.
Girls go green? Wow, really?
I know, it's.
That one might be gone,
I hope so.
I think it's
They've-
called,
they've
it's called
changed it.
Eco Girls. I'm pretty sure it's.
I like that
Eco
one
The
better.
material science camp is really cool, but yeah, it takes one thing that takes a lot of time.
Was that Malcolm?
Material science camp, it's got no run.
That's a big one in the
I know
inside.
that, pretty cool. You get to play
Is there
soccer.
one in your department or there's?
There's one in specific to our department for reading. I run the Jackling program, that's 400 to 450 high school students.
That
for the
sounds
summer.
pretty cool.
It's intense. The week that they're here, my week is gone, so.
I remember
thought
last summer, we were
about-
trying to work on finalizing our plans for the early career faculty forum, and that week Wayne was just out. He just couldn't join us.
Babysitting 150 high schoolers for
It's a lot, yeah.
a week.
I can't think of a system-wide committee you should be participating in. Because those are the ultimate time drain. Can you
Okay,
think of
there
any,
was,
Sarah?
I was gonna ask you that. So for a new junior green, don't have a clue about committees, what besides what,
Faculty Senate committees are the ones that I know best. Really, Public Occasions Committee.
where can you actually learn without losing that precious time that you don't have? Because you're
That's
still
why-
trying to
That's
vote.
why I suggested that you just attend the meetings, but not be the representative, exactly for the reason you said.
For
Because
those,
it's good
yeah.
to learn.
And what I like, the ones I look at the agendas beforehand, I go, I think that might be a really interesting meeting to go to, and I just sit in the back and watch. So my final word on campus would be focus on your department service.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
New faculty teaching scholars, has that program changed? It's a long time ago for me.
He's on
Just
the-
had a telecom, so the
Service professional.
Candace up at UMKC, Annie Goodman up at UMSL, Victoria Montelli, and myself are on a committee to they didn't do UM Faculty Scholars this year.
Okay.
We've been working hard all year to come up with a different revamped program, and just what, 2 weeks ago, they announced, oh, we're not gonna do it.
Oh, okay.
Money,
2 years in a row.
Because when I did it years and years ago, it wasn't an obligation. It was actually going there and learning things like how to build your dossier. and Very
That's-
useful things.
Whatever.
yeah, it was
Sounds different.
I know there's speech
or
communication society.
I shouldn't have done this one. I touched upon this one a little bit already as far as it's important. Being an officer in a committee or some component, I know when I first started off as a junior faculty member in ceramic engineering, I got involved with what's called the Ceramic Educational Council. And so it was one of those organizations where I started off as the secretary, then the treasurer, then the vice president, then president. It was a 4-year cycle, worked my way into leading the organization. And that helped me out a lot. I even was named the outstanding young, I forget what it was. It was nice. It was what I did for my professional society, so that's a good thing. It wasn't too bad. It meant I went to 2 national meetings a year. And again, I can't emphasize enough that CAFE has resources to send you to meetings to do these things. Don't let that be the roll-up. The amount of money that's being invested in you as a new faculty member here is tremendous. This is peanuts, helping you do these little things that will help you develop and grow.
Yeah, we funded some people already who are first and second year who've done exactly this.
Yeah.
You did me, because I had to go to a meeting in the fall, and I'm like, well, it's not a travel grant because I'm not traveling for research, I'm traveling for service. And then I got to use special funding or special
Just
opportunity,
opportunity fund.
which is great because this spring when I went and had research stuff, then I still had that money, because otherwise
Yes.
I'm like,
Same with me. Not only you allow me to go and present, but I'm also serving as a chair in a panel, in a very polemic thing, yeah.
Mhm.
Visibility.
And we know without a shadow of a doubt that this may help you, but ultimately it's helping students. You know, the kind of
I hope.
connections that you make. Well, there's a lot of time we've been critiqued, how does this help a student? It's pretty easy to articulate how your professional development in all ways ultimately translates down to the student. Being a member of an advisory committee.
Yeah,
organizer,
that one I don't understand very well, as at least not pre-tenure, because it seems to me you have to be more senior, and especially in your case, because you have to be very technical, right?
It is true, I was never invited to be a member of an
I
advisory
don't
board or anything of
think-
that nature when I was a junior faculty
I
member.
doubt it.
But these are by invitation only as compared
Okay.
to something you seek. If someone invited you to do that, well, don't turn it down.
No, I would be very puzzled.
That's why we left it green. It's not something that maybe would be highly unusual, but if the opportunity presented itself, jump at it.
Yeah, Amelia, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was on the Missouri Cybersecurity Advisory Committee for the state, but
Okay.
it's just, lining
You
up
never
perfectly
know.
with what they need. And so.
If you have any doubts, if you got invited to something, have a conversation with the person.
Oh, I'll
inviting
ask you Irina
What's-
immediately.
Well, what's the time commitment? Ask
Yes.
what the time commitment would be.
That's a good strategy. And then I'll go straight to Irina.
Funding agencies, proposal reviewer. Only do this for people that you want a connection with. One of the things you'll discover is if you start reviewing proposals or manuscripts and you do it in a timely manner, you get on an A list. Wow, Shun turns these things around in 2 weeks. We're gonna send you more. This is a great example of being
Not
selfish
cool,
with your
yeah.
time. Only places you may be asking for funding from, or maybe want to publish in journals. In that journal, okay. But this one can get out of control fast with respect to a service type of activity.
Now, this one is interesting to me because I interviewed 80 people for my gap analysis, and one person I interviewed was President Moon Choi. I said, when you were provost at the University of Connecticut, what did you recommend for junior faculty to do in this regard? And he said, send your CV to that kind of agency. You're going to be offering to review in your niche area for an agency that you want funding from. And so I agree. Don't just generally send out, I'm willing to do
Well,
it.
and you learn what well-written proposals look like.
Yeah.
You know how funding decisions are made.
Just good to know.
Don't do this one. This one's a big time consumer.
What's the technical?
This would also be one you'd be invited to do. So it's not unusual for me to be invited if Department of Energy to want to do a technical roadmap for fuel cells. And this is a week-long activity that generates a report. That report is used to generate broad agency announcements, funding opportunities. I'll do it because then I've got the leg up on what's going to be funded. They want to invest $100 million. They want to put it into new areas. That's what I mean by technology roadmap.
But you never got asked to do that when you were a junior.
Correct. It's
Yeah. One of those.
You're right. It's more of a senior type of thing. Same thing with journals. To be a manuscript reviewer, do it for journals you're going to publish in. Oftentimes, editors are going to look at the references you know, someone submits a manuscript, they look at the first 5 references and say, okay, Shun was referenced. Let's see if Shun will review this paper, independent of whether or not you ever published in that journal or not. Stay focused in on that one. I have found in serving on P&T for a long time now that some agencies and journals are giving out awards for people who review manuscripts in a timely manner and do a good job with it. Okay, I think they understood that we need to recognize this service somehow. And that was the mechanism they did that. I've been seeing some of those. Editor, associate editor, that's more of a senior faculty, mid-career
That's a big no.
faculty. Yeah, that's a huge time consumption one. And a member of a national or international scientific group. Yeah, get on committees for your professional society. Again, we will never ask for. I have never seen an external review letter from NSF or DOE or DOD, a program manager there. I have seen a few from editors of journals. I have seen that. I've seen many from colleagues at professional societies, high-level people. It's a good thing. You'll notice in the collected rules it did mention community service. It did include that, but I would tell you that it is very
Tricky.
It's not really, I'd say doesn't count, because we are often defined by doing things we don't need to. But don't expect that anything you would put in the realm of community service is going to help you with a promotion tenure.
So it's
type of,
low priority, in other words?
What's that?
Low priority compared to some of the other stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, and actually what makes Rolla a very vibrant community is how much time faculty, staff here spend doing things in the community, which is really nice. Whether it's at a church or Lions Club or Grace or whatever, these are all worthwhile endeavors. Just don't
Does
get.
that have a does that matter whether you're tenure track or not?
Yeah, it's independent of.
It is, okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
I didn't know if that, since obviously like I don't have a research agenda, that maybe it would, like you said, it won't help your case. I didn't know if since I just had sort of service, if that was
Well, let me use History Day as an example, right? Larry, you've been involved with that for decades.
Now that one could be a green one because for History Day, it's a pretty low time consumption. It's for some of those others.
Oh, we forgot to make that one green. We were going to make that one green. That line there, the first robotics competition, WISE is Worldwide Youth in Science Engineering. This is like a math
History Day is important.
competition. History Day in there,
Okay.
science fairs.
I do have a beef with this one, because when we first had Dean Roberts come to our department retreat, so in August, when we started the beginning, he actually told us one of the areas he thinks we're lacking is community outreach. He
Yeah.
thinks often a lot of people don't know what is it the folks at ST do, and how does that connect to the local businesses,
I
the
agree.
institutions, the
I would say it should
schools.
be the fulls and the associates doing that outreach.
Well, I wasn't claiming that it had to be junior faculty, and I remember I actually read the strategic plan. It does mention more on the local level.
I'm surprised you said a little bit. One of the reasons I say that is I've gone to a lot of these competitions. It's almost all S&T staff and faculty run them.
Especially if you go
The
to high
judges
school.
for science fair
yes.
with St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
I used to be Mr. Wizard at all the grade schools and go in and do science experiments and stuff.
No, I'm just wondering, or if it's one of those humanities versus the STEM areas, is it?
No, because
It's-
every year I've done, for the last decade, I've been the MC for the geography bee at the middle school. There were 1,000 kids in the room.
Oh, I believe it.
And
I went
dozens
to
and
one of
dozens
these
parents.
things in the high school, it was full, yeah.
Yeah.
I've gotten involved with the Women in Business group here in town, which is co-sponsored with S&T. They're, she's a Karen's name, I can't remember her title, but anyway, but it's co-sponsored with like the S&T Business Initiative, whatever thing.
Something, yeah.
Is that part of the speaking engagement when I'm one of like the speakers that come in and talk about something?
Sure, why not? All right, so now,
I'm like, is that green? That's my, is it green?
you know, one of what you mentioned about having a presence in the community.
Well,
The,
I'm trying to figure out what he meant. I don't think it was meant for me as junior faculty. I'm not sure, I don't know if it was because we also have the arts, have more people come to the theater, and to the concerts. I'm not sure exactly what he meant.
It is satisfying to do nice things for our community.
Yes,
That
you
makes
feel
this
better.
a nice
yes.
place to live, because ultimately that helps with our recruitment and retention of faculty. It
Yes.
just does,
I think
that's for
that's,
sure. Yeah, so that one's food for thought. I think being personally happy and having a nice
a nice
work-life
community.
balance,
Yes.
when you have this kind of thing going on in the life component of that equation, it's fulfilling.
She's had to make decisions on how to navigate from being first-year faculty up through tenure promotion, and then she got to that point where she did want to be in faculty senate. So pose some questions to her about how she decided to make those moves.
Like, did you start with a set time of weekly commitment hours?
No.
I'm trying to, like, this is my picture. So, right now, my first year, I only teach 2 classes. So in the fall, I'll start teaching 3 classes. Then I still open a calendar and I divide my writing, this day, like weekly and daily. And then where am I still gonna fit? Then I meet with students, where am I still gonna, are we talking 2 hours a week? Is it
I
on a
think that would actually be
specifically?
A
is
very
there
prudent approach. I didn't do it, but I should have. I probably did far more service than what is being recommended, some of it by choice, some not. For example, in my department, we had to be freshman advisors. We didn't have a choice. I happened to enjoy it. A senior colleague promised to get me a nice chair position at a conference that we both went to if I took over a student group that the person could no longer advise. I thought it seemed like a nice trade, and they said it wouldn't take a lot of time. That didn't turn out to be true, so I advised a student group. Again, not being recommended, and I agree that it would not be wise. So I literally
So you
did
typically spend more time than you anticipated?
far more. And again, departmental expectations are different. And in engineering, especially being a woman, you get stuck with things. For example,
That
the
no guy
girls'
wants to
camps.
do.
At the time, we had a couple of women colleagues who were senior colleagues, but just refused to do, for example, the girls' camps. And the department chair would ask me to do them because it would make our department look bad if we didn't have a camp. So there were things that really, I agree with the recommendations. I ended up doing, I wish I hadn't, but generally, I think these are all the recommendations, and the most general one is be very selfish with your time.
I still don't grasp that very
I
totally.
guess I have a question then.
Yeah.
Are there senior faculty that try to push off some of this other service stuff onto junior faculty?
Ah,
Yes.
good question.
That's why I'm reiterating the recommendation that be selfish with your time because others are.
The chair should be your bulwark. The chair should be the person who is doing their best to protect you from that.
Okay.
And sometimes they can't always pull it off. I think most chairs do their best. And the full professors, in departments that are functioning well, the full professors do the same thing. They try to protect the junior faculty.
But don't count on it. I happen to have wonderful colleagues and a wonderful chair, but a senior colleague from another university gave me an excellent piece of advice. They said, never count on anybody being there for any duration of time. Your chair could be, the example they gave me, they said, Hitler could be your chair next year. Don't make arrangements with a chair who may or may not be there. Senior colleague might promise you something and they wouldn't deliver. So you're your own best protection. Don't count on anyone else. Try your best to get it, but don't count on it.
That's sage advice, I like that. That's
But
good.
if you don't have any experience or in any part of your work, you have no idea how much it would be, right? So
Right.
how do you?
That's my other question. How
Very-
can you determine without ever, I don't know, the parking committee? I don't have a clue what they do, much less how long
I
it
want to be
takes.
honest, because everyone's supposed to be honest.
Yeah, I thought it was a joke.
That's why it would be good to get to
To
know
go
a
and
lot
listen.
of people, not just in your own department. Sooner or later, you're all
Sounding board.
very intelligent. You'll find out who's a trustworthy person. They don't have to be in your department to tell you that
True.
this sounds fishy or that's a terrible idea. And you have
The reason I'm
way
running
better-
around is that we had some master mentor cars, and the master mentors,
Well, by the, what do you call it? Finance there.
I got one last
Well,
question.
yeah.
So I, in some ways, feel, so I'm definitely junior faculty here, it's my first year here, but I'm like, I don't know, 11 or 12 years out, post-PhD, so it's not exactly my first rodeo.
We know.
But my concern is like, so when I talked to my chair, I kind of approached it that way and said, I understand it's the first year, you're supposed to kind of back off. But I want to do something, and instead it's kind of like, no, you'll find something eventually, like, you'll wait. And I feel like I'm almost being like told not to do anything. So I sort of channeled my service to exterior, so I'm like, pretty high up from those organizations. But I'm like, but can I please, for the love of God, just do something as a T? And I feel like I almost am trying, like I'm being told no, and I believe she has my best interests at heart, but I also feel like she's not listening to like where I'm at and what I'm comfortable doing. And I don't know.
Well,
That's the kind of conversation to have at your annual review. Okay, I've done the fall semester, I'm almost finished with the spring semester. Here's what I'd like to do next year in the third year here.
See, you can speak with authority that you have more potential. I have more potential to contribute
Yeah.
because you do have more experience.
Yes.
It's those first years as you're trying to figure out.
Yeah, kind of even this is my third job. My second one, they pretty much were like, great, hit the ground running. And I was like, okay, great. And here I'm just like, but I have this time and I could, not that I want to spend it all, but I'm just like, I could be doing something and yet I'm being told not to. And it's
And it is
so
a personal
frustrating.
decision. It's not just time that feeds into that. Like I said, for example, freshman advising, I had to do it, but even if I didn't, I actually, after I was no longer obligated, I asked to stay just because it was so delightful and it was so relaxing and so rewarding that it probably put me in a mental state that made me a lot more productive.
So Sahar, do we get to choose? And is that a good or a bad thing? Because
This type of service?
the committees, like Irina said,
Yeah.
they're gonna be up, they're gonna be vacancies. And my first question is, do I get to sit with you and ask you what it is about? Like you give me a name, and what do I know? Do they tell me what to do?
I
Like my
hope
chair?
so, but I'll be honest that sometimes in Faculty Senate, we got nominations and people didn't even know that their chair had nominated them.
Yes.
That should not
That's
be
not
happening,
good.
but
Yes.
I'm honestly telling you that it does.
Okay.
I won't name any departments, but it does happen.
No, but I wanna know,
Ideally, yes.
don't you?
No, I wouldn't worry about that on the stretch.
Oh, I wasn't talking about other in specific.
No, I know.
I was talking about,
Yeah, but it is true, yeah, I'm sure if she does the nomination, she would explain, like, this is what this committee does.
well, it seems to me, regardless of the level, if you're junior, senior, more experienced, it should be a match, right? Service more than anything, like we all need to teach, we all need to do research. Well, somehow you already chose your research years ago. But service should be a match. You should be doing something that you think you can contribute and you're skilled or have some interest in. It
Or
shouldn't be.
sometimes level of protection.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like, oh, here's something, go and do it, right? It shouldn't be just a duty, unless, I like to think that in university where we're self-governed, we have the, am I being to a topic here?
A
Too
very
newbie?
good source of information would be people who are currently on that committee or carrying out the service that you're being asked
That's
to
a
do.
good idea. I like
They could
that.
tell you exactly how much time
So
it takes,
reach out and ask
how
what they're
messy it
doing.
gets. Yes,
Yeah, let's look at the roster of committees and,
all of these things are public.
yeah.
I don't even know what's gonna be coming up yet, so.
Well, and also, I like Sarah's recommendation that go to a meeting,
I
and watch
like
the
that
reports.
too.
Because the standing committees will make a report, and and you'll get a sense of, if their
What
report is
the
really
heck
lengthy,
they're
you go,
doing.
that's not maybe a committee I should be on because it's really a lengthy report.